Yo, Happy New Year everybody. Sorry for the long wait these past few months, but I'm back and ready to finish these One Piece videos. Now, although I'm addressing this video like it's just been made recently, it actually hasn't. I started working on this like October of last year, and the audio was pretty much finished already. I just never finished the editing. I just feel like I needed to add this bit to at least address the absence and the new year. The audio may sound a bit different, but I'll try my best to make it consistent. But without further ado, let's start the video. The Perfect One Piece Game, a video series going in depth about what I think should be in the game mechanics of, well, the perfect One Piece video game. And in my most recent of those videos, I went over how devil fruits will work in the game, and not only has that been my best video so far, it's also been a catalyst of this new series that you guys voted on having, devil fruit functions in the perfect One Piece game. In these videos, I will take a look at 3 different devil fruits and kinda go in depth about how they will work in the game, from the techniques you can learn to the strengths and weaknesses of each fruit. My goal is to be able to make these videos in between the main video series as a way of branching out a bit, but still staying on the same topic. So for this first video, I asked you guys which 3 fruits you'd like to see get discussed first, and the most popular answers seem to be the Soru Soru No Mi, the Yomi Yomi No Mi, and the Ope Ope No Mi. So those are the fruits of this video. So how would these 3 devil fruits work in the game? Let's find out. The Ope Ope No Mi, or the Op Op fruit, is a paramecia type devil fruit that allows the user to create a transparent sphere, a room if you will, where they can pretty much manipulate and alter almost any person or thing inside of it. Inside the room, the user can swap places with people or objects, perform non-lethal surgical cuts on people, and even levitate objects and such. So in this game, just like in this series, an Ope Ope No Mi user will have the room ability and can only perform their techniques while inside the room. The room itself will range in size depending on how long the player holds the button function. For a room at maximum size, the player will hold a technique for as long as possible. So once the room is formed, the user is able to perform a crazy amount of techniques, the first of which being amputate. Now in the series, amputate is a technique Law uses when he cuts people up and controls their bodies and like kind of move them around like that. But that's probably a bit too ambitious for a video game considering, he decides where he wants to cut and different parts of the body he wants to cut, so it's probably a lot more ambitious. But in the game, it would pretty much allow the user to attack everyone in the room with melee attacks no matter where they're standing. So it doesn't matter where they're standing inside the room, as long as someone is cut in there and the person like locks on to enemy of some kind, then once they start swinging, everyone that's locked on will get hit. This will also have to be used with a bladed weapon because it is a cutting technique. Radio Knife will work just like Amputate, except it will hurt Logia users without having to use Haki. Moving on to Shambles. So side note, before I talk about the actual technique, there would be individual objects in the game that are able to be interacted with or affected by powers, such as small and large rocks, some trees, other plants, animals, and even some structures and ships. So to use Shambles, a player is able to lock on to any player or certain individual object like I just mentioned before in the room and swap places with them. Another form of Shambles is the personality transport surgery, which allows the user to cause players to switch bodies for a period of time. The user will lock onto 2 or more players in the room and perform the technique, causing them to switch bodies for 1 minute. The swap players would still have their same Haki level and fighting styles equipped, but not their same overall level of devil fruit power. This is because despite being in a weaker body, hindering him from fighting as well as he would in his normal body, Sanji was able to use both observation Haki and blue walk in Nami's body. Tact allows the user to levitate objects and people. To lift players, it would need to be used as a follow-up to Amputate being activated and used. Then the player could just lock on and lift whoever was hit by Amputate, whether that's one player or all players inside the room at once. Tact could also be used to lift stone pikes from the ground on their enemies. Scan allows the user to scan players for one object in their inventory and take it. It wouldn't matter what the item is either, it could be a devil fruit or a map, anything really. Mess allows the user to remove players' hearts from their body. The user would need to be close to land the attack, and once they do, the target's heart appears in their hand. With the heart in hand, the victim is pretty much at the user's mercy, as the user can squeeze the heart causing damage or just stab the heart and kill the opponent instantly. Because there was no clear indication that Haki was needed to do so, this attack will work on Logia users. Counter shock will just be a powerful electrical shock attack that needs to be performed at close quarters. Curtain allows the user to create a transparent sheet to use as a barrier to shield an attack. These last few techniques are what I label as ultimate or super techniques and are the most powerful in the fruit's arsenal. Injection Shot, a powerful piercing attack that can be performed at any distance inside a room. Stubborn Blade, a powerful attack that sends the user's weapon flying and spinning towards a locked on opponent, causing lots of damage. Gamma Knife, an insanely powerful stabbing attack that must be done in close quarters but will one-shot most players. It will also have an insane cooldown time at about 5 minutes due to its insane power. Manga spoilers ahead, because we do have the awakening abilities of the Ope Ope No Mi. The first of these abilities being Cave Room or Kroom or Chrome, however it's pronounced, where the user performs anesthesia which coats the user's weapon in the cave room essence or like the room bubble, which allows the user's weapon to be aimed and shot out to stretch and stab targets without causing damage initially. After piercing an enemy with their weapon, the user could use Shock Wheel to fry the enemy's insides and cause insane damage. This will also be how the user performs Puncture Wheel, the most destructive attack in the Ope Ope No Mi's skill set, which will work the same as Shock Wheel but could extend further past the enemy and damage anyone in close proximity to the weapon and Shockwave. The second awakening ability of the Ope Ope No Mi is Aura Room or Room, where the user can use Silent, which pretty much places a small room around a single target and cancels out all the sound from the inside. So pretty much like Corazon's Nage Nage No Mi. Now almost every devil fruit does have its own weakness. That's not including the swimming thing, they just have different weaknesses. Now I know I said in my devil fruits video that devil fruit abilities won't drain stamina, but will have cooldown times. Well, for the Ope Ope No Mi it's different. While the techniques performed inside a room would not drain any stamina, creating the room would drain stamina. So every time you create a room, some of your stamina would drain, and the more rooms you create, the more it drains your stamina. The reason for this is not only because this is in line with the actual series, but mainly because this is a really overpowered devil fruit, hence the OP in the name. Not really, but you get what I mean. Man, that was a lot to cover for just one fruit, but there's a reason it's so popular. It's just so damn overpowered and it sounds so fun to play with. But let's finally move on to the Soru Soru No Mi. The Soru Soru No Mi, or the Soul Soul fruit, is a pyramid type devil fruit that allows the user to interact and manipulate human souls. With the main technique, Soul Focus, the user is able to extract fragments of their target's soul and collect them. To do this, the user will have to be in close range to the target and activate the technique. When the soul fragments are extracted, a good portion of the target's health is depleted, while the user adds another soul to the soul counter that they will have. Now I know to actually be able to perform this technique in the series, the target must be scared of the user, otherwise it will have no effect. But since this is an online game and you can't really measure someone's fear level of you through a game, instead the user will only be able to perform the ability on players with a lower level than them. That way there's at least some limitation on it. Also, depending on how experienced the user is as a Soru Soru No Mi user, Soul Focus could be a one-shot attack in which it'll completely drain the target's life force and kill them, rather than just taking a portion of it. Now, the point of the aforementioned soul counter is so that the player can have those souls to store into certain inanimate objects such as stones and plants to create homies. Homies will work as small companions that will follow you around and attack enemies for you. Keep in mind that most of these homies would just be small weak objects that would be more annoying to players rather than actually harm them, only doing small bits of damage. I would say that the user will only be able to have like 10 total homies active at one point, with the basic homies only staying the homies for about 2 minutes or so before reverting back into regular objects in which the user will have their souls returned to them. Also, whenever the user collects a soul, they'll always have that soul until they die and lose the fruit power. So the user could collect as many souls as they wanted, but they could only have 10 homies active at a given time. But that's only in regards to regular homies. There are more powerful homies that could be created called special homies. Special homies are homies that are created using the soul fragments of the user themselves, making them more powerful. These special homies wouldn't be temporary like regular homies. They would stay with the user and follow them around as companions, and the user would be able to develop techniques around them. There would be 5 different types of special homies that the user could create. The first being the fire homie, which would be created by using soul focus on a burning player or a tree. With a fire homie, you can get all of Big Mom's fire attacks such as the Heavenly Fire and Heavenly Bonbons. Next is the cloud homie or the thunder homie, which will be created by using soul focus on a cloud, whether it's in the sky or on a sky island. With the cloud homie, you can unlock all of Big Mom's lightning attacks, such as the Raite or the Indra. Next is the weapon homie, which will be created by using soul focus while holding a weapon. Now, firstly, if I haven't said this in a previous video already, Napoleon, the actual weapon used by Big Mom, would be an attainable legendary weapon in the game that players could get through means that will be explained in a future video. But as for a weapon homie, the user will be able to make whatever weapon they have into a special homie, giving them much more power and possibly even more techniques developed exclusively on the game depending on the weapon. Now these next two are special homies that haven't been created by Big Mom, but I'm sure would definitely be possible. The first is the air homie, which will be created by using soul pokés while harsh winds are blowing. With an air homie, you will be able to use wind-based attacks. So, it would be a lot different than how we've seen Big Mom use it. Maybe you can create tornadoes, maybe you can fly with the wind, who knows. And the final special homie will be the stone homie, which will be created by using soul pokés on a big stone. You will have like rock and stone based attacks. I feel like these will work given the elemental aspects to the special homies Big Mom creates, and even her Jolly Roger having more elemental aspects to it. Also, I think it gives some uniqueness to it given that they will be created for this game exclusively. Weaknesses of the Soru Soru No Mi includes only being able to use soul pokés on players lower level than the user, and a Yomi Yomi No Mi user can reverse the effects of soul pokés on regular homies. Speaking of the Yomi Yomi No Mi, the Yomi Yomi No Mi, or the Revive fruit, is a paramecia type devil fruit that allows a user to be resurrected after death and given soul based powers in their second life. So the main use of the fruit will obviously be giving the user a second life after dying. So when a user dies, whether that's being killed in battle, drowned in water, or whatever else, their soul will leave their body, while their body stays where it's at. Now let's say that the user died in the middle of a fight, and after they died, the fight was still going on. Well, the player could stay in their soul form waiting to go back to their body whenever they feel like it. But the user will have to keep in mind that at some point after waiting too long to go back to their body, the user's body will turn into a skeleton, like Brook. Also, by the way, if the player died while drowning, their body would just appear on the closest island from where they died at, just so that they actually have a chance at a second life. Okay, so now that we got past the resurrection part, what about the true use of this fruit, the soul abilities? When a Yomi Yomi No Mi user is resurrected, they are now able to use the chill of the underworld in their attacks. These attacks are able to damage and freeze enemies with the use of the user's soul. Now because Brook is a swordsman or a fensor user in the terms of this game, there are a few Yomi Yomi No Mi based sword attacks that the user could obtain, such as the Blizzard Slice, or the Bamboo Fruit Slice, Soul Parade, and Swallow Banderoll. There is so far only one non-sword ability shown, which is the Cold Soul, where the user is able to leave their body, similar to how they would be when they died, where they're just a soul floating around. They could fly around through walls and other structures like an actual ghost. Also, when they fly through enemies, they will freeze them for a couple of seconds. Ultimate attacks of the Yomi Yomi No Mi consist of the 3-paced Hum Soul Notch Slash, the Phrase D-Arms Orchestra, and Soul King. While having the game exclusive ability of acting like a somewhat Susanoo of sorts and attacking and freeze enemies, Soul King would also reverse the effects of the Soru Soru No Mi on their homies, as I previously explained. Weaknesses consist of the user only being able to be revived one time, so you only get one, no more, as far as we know. Who knows, maybe Brook can always come back to life, who knows. And while using Cold Soul, the user's body will be completely exposed and vulnerable to attacks, so you might want to use that around friends. And this has been the first of many Devil Fruit Functions videos. The next fruits to be covered will be the Soru Soru No Mi, the UU No Mi model Blue Siryu, and the one and only Gomu Gomu No Mi. Follow me on Instagram at RedXRani, follow me on Twitter at RedXRani, the Discord link will be in the description. Remember to like and subscribe for more of this great content. See you in the next one, peace.